Hi, folks, and welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Susan. I am so excited for my guest today, Ravi Prakash. He's passionate about life and the possibilities it offers if we learn to lead ourselves first. He's a global keynote speaker and TEDx speaker. He's an author and a co-founder of companyinsights.ai. An immigrant from India and a naturalized U.S. citizen, Ravi arrived with just $20 and a fire to prove what's possible. He's led global teams of over 1,000 people, worked with people from over 80 countries across multiple industries, and held executive roles in corporate America. He's worked with companies such as Salesforce.com, Oracle, Ericsson, Airbnb, Blue Cross of California, Telecom Argentina, and many more. His book, Suffer: An Immigrant's Journey of Life and Leadership, shares that journey from village roots shaped by revolutionary grandparents to leadership on global stages. A former marathon runner, holy cow, father, and advocate for inner leadership, Ravi speaks from lived experience on resilience, reinvention, and the power of leading from within. He's currently working on his second book, Echoes of Me, a book of poems. Ravi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, David. Thank you for inviting. Thank you for
Oh
this.
my gosh, I'm so excited to hear about this. I don't even know where to start. I'm a runner. I love talking about running, but let's start with this. I can't even imagine having a $20 bill in my pocket and going to a whole nother country. So you arrive with $20, no guarantees. What was the mindset you had to develop just to keep going?
Well, I think, as I say, life, if you just stop and think most of the time in your toughest moment, there is something innate in human being and it comes out. You don't train for it. You don't plan for it. It happens. And when I found myself sitting December 31st, 1988, I landed stroke of midnight in UW Platteville, Wisconsin. I get down from the bus. It's minus 30-degree chill. I am not even dressed for that weather. My professor came to pick me up and he informs me there is no place. The guy you were going to stay, he left the campus. He's in Louisiana. Here I am, 3 days travel from India. I have no place to stay. Middle of the night. And right now, I don't want to even talk to anybody. I am literally like, I would die right now. Just get me somewhere warm. And, that's the journey that my journey started with that in the United States. And luckily, he took me out to somebody's house who gave me a place to stay for a week. And in that week, I think first was, this is the worst decision of my life. Why did I come here? It is absolutely ridiculous. There's nobody to be seen. It's just ice and snow. And slowly, you start to build your village. You start to find people. You start to say, okay, yeah, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. And that is resilience is not a mood. Okay. It is a lifestyle. And you got to build that lifestyle. It's a decision. You decide, I will do this. And then you start to build that one step at a time. And if you don't do those things, all this resilience, perseverance, these are not things you put on the billboard and say, I am resilient. I have perseverance. This is lived experience. You live it every single day in every decision you make.
So you may have just answered my next question in there, and elaborate if you would. But this is called, on the podcast, you hear the intro. It's inside the leader's mind, but then the tagline is, "What's in the way becomes the way." So with that, looking back, what was in the way for you when you first arrived in the US that later became the way forward? And maybe it's what you just said a minute ago.
Yeah, I think, that was really like, I'm not a person who thinks deeply about all the problems of life. I simply, whatever is in front of me, I may take some few minutes and then I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so, in the way, coming to America in the way was, hey, I never had a plan to come to America, honestly. It was because somebody challenged me one time, and my sister saying, you won't be worth anything in life without my help. Basically, they challenged our existence. And this is when I had just lost my eyesight in my right eye. I had gone completely blind. And he came out and said, in a way, in front of an entire bunch of friends and family. And I didn't fight with him. I didn't defend myself. I just made a decision, quiet decision. Didn't say a word. Went to every consulate I could find in New Delhi. Didn't care which country it was. The fact that he said I couldn't go anywhere without his help, that was enough. That from next day on, for a month, I went to every consulate I could find, an embassy. I didn't even know how to speak well at the time. I'm 17. I don't know what to ask. I'm like, how do I go to your country? What can I do? I don't even know what to say. And in the process, I met a lady who was the head of the U.S. Education Foundation. She was very kind lady. She basically, the gist of the conversation was, if your family doesn't have money to send you abroad, do well in your undergraduate in India, apply for graduate school, and hopefully you'll get scholarship. So next 4 years, I never told that to anybody. I kept that advice in my heart, wrote to hundreds of schools worldwide, not just U.S. And 30 days after I graduated, I was in Wisconsin. With a scholarship, which sitting in India, I was like, okay, $1,800 in a year, that's a lot of money times 10, I'll be fine. Coming to find out, as soon as I landed, that's not going to cut it at all. I was living in this world that had nothing to do with reality. As a young person with dreams, I just thought $1,800 is a lot of money. And I found out within my first days that that was just not enough. So that's how my mind works. I don't really think too much about things. It just happens, one thing after another. Went to the embassy to get visa. The guy goes, you're 22. If I give you visa, if you never come back to India. And people had told me, say this, say that. I didn't do that. I just looked at him and said, when you were 22, did you know what you were going to do? He said, no. I say, isn't that an unfair question to ask me then? And he smiled, and literally no questions after that. He said, come back at 3 and get your... And I was the only guy who got visa that day out of 40 students. So that's life.
Wow. What was the reason you wanted to go somewhere else? I don't
Just,
want to make an assumption. So,
no, that was a challenge. I had no intention of living in India. I was perfectly happy in India.
but it was purely just because you felt challenged?
Purely that day it got under my skin. He literally looked at us in front of 20, 30 people in the house. We were sitting, enjoying, having a great time. Out of the blue, he says, you both can't go anywhere in the world without my help. And it was very uncharacteristic of him. He had never said anything like that in the past. I actually liked him very much. But that day, for some reason, it got under my skin. And from next day on, like 4 o'clock, I was ready. By 5:36, I was out of the house. It was summer. My mom is like, where are you going? I'm like, Mom, I'll tell you when I come back. And from that day on, every week, I would take the bus, go to that. It's like going to DC where all the embassies are. I would show up in the morning, stay all day, door to door. One embassy, one consulate, embassy, whoever would
Crazy.
talk. And those days, security was not that tight. So
Right.
as a 17-year-old, they'll say, oh, yeah, okay, go in and talk to this person, talk to that person. And that is how my life changed.
How did you maintain that drive for the next 4 years, you said, right?
Yeah.
How did you maintain that? Because oftentimes we're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then, 30 days later, you're like, all right, whatever, I'm over it. What was it that continued to drive you for 4 years?
There was absolutely so many things. I lost a year after 12th grade because of my eyes. So all my friends had gone to college. I was sitting at home. it was the most depressing, low moment of my life, thinking I was going to play. My goal was to play cricket for India. I used to practice in like the Yankee Stadium. I used to practice in that stadium in New Delhi where some of the India's great played. One of my teammate played for India. So I was pretty good player. And that was my only focus. And here from one day to the next, I'm not playing cricket. I lost a year in college. All my friends are in college. I have no idea what's going to happen in my life. Then, in the meantime, Indira Gandhi was assassinated. The day that she was assassinated, she was brought to the same hospital I was there for my last eye checkup before I went to college. That changed everything. Next 1 week, there was riots, civil rights all over India. Delhi was on fire. Our neighborhood was on fire. My dad walked out in front of 2,000 people and stood in front of them and said, you can only move forward and you won't move an inch further unless you walk over my dead body. And that's how he saved our neighborhood. And so that was the background. And then I was late by 2 weeks because the whole city was shut down. The country was shut down. Then I start going to college, Bangalore, which is south of India. 2 days into the train ride, we get stuck in one of the strongest hurricane to ever hit India. I'm stuck in a train for 1 week. Totally, you can't go anywhere. We were thinking we were going to be dead because nothing you saw was alive. People dead, animals dead, buildings broken, everything was gone. We were airlifted to Chennai. From there, then I go to school late. My seat was given to somebody else because I didn't show up. I fought for it to get my seat back. So many things happened, but I was determined. I don't know how. I cannot tell you how, but there was I'll tell you, as a cricket player, it was in me always. I was a track guy. I was a cricket player. Doesn't matter how bad the situation was. One of my best innings was when I had 104 fever and my team said, Ravi, we need you. And that day I walked in I don't know if you know, in cricket, you have 11 players. I would open the innings. I walked in with 104 fever. My mom didn't know that I was playing. I told her I'm going to see a doctor. And I played my best inning. I played the whole inning. Nobody could get me out that day. That's the kind of thing I've always observed. I've always had this tenacity about things. When everybody said we won't win, I'm like, no, the game is not over. I don't care what it is. The game is not over. That was my attitude. And I think that attitude, and maybe it's the generational thing, my grandpa, they fought so hard against the British. Winston Churchill was so concerned how strong my grandpa was. He said he named him the Tiger of Bihar, the state I'm from, because he operated all the way from eastern India all the way to Afghanistan and Pakistan. And he was never captured by the British. He had 20 million Indian rupees in his name, dead or alive. So I guess the family genes is there somewhere in the system.
Oh my gosh, too funny. Now, were you, so you did well, you got a scholarship. Were you always a good student prior to this, or you're shaking
No.
your head? This kind of put fuel on the fire to work harder.
Yeah, I guess the thing was, I think sometimes it's not that you're not a good or bad student. A large part is your environment, your teachers. Do you have teachers who are enterprising? They are really, they capture your imagination. What I found was, as in my first, second grade, we had a neighbor who would teach all the neighborhood kids math, and he was amazing. We were in love with him. All the kids were like, math was like the thing to do with him. Then I go to school and the teacher goes, no, you have to only do this way. And that is where I saw my behavior, where I said, I would resist that. I said, no. That guy at home, I understand what he says, but what you say, I'm not going to do that way. I'm going to do it this way. And I saw that throughout my life. I was very resistant to that. If I like something and I knew that this made sense to me, and somebody said, because I'm your teacher, you got to do it this way. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it this way. I'm going to do it this way. And I think that is why I wasn't a great student. I was okay student because my focus was on cricket. But when I went to college, my focus changed. I was still very active in sports. I played university cricket. I played soccer. I played track. But I was also very focused on education because I was totally focused on. I started writing to schools around the world in my second year of college. And my dorm room was like the library. You wanted to go anywhere in the world, you could come to me and say, hey, Ravi, I want to go to this country, that country. What do I have to do? And I knew the answer to that. So that was the drive. And fortunately, my classmates were very good. The environment in the school was very good. We had about 200 kids who would go abroad every year from our school. So there was this environment as well.
Cool. As with everything that happened to you, especially this person challenging you, you're never going to make it. And then you come in here, $20. What what has been the biggest takeaway impact as you reflect back and you say, this one thing has shaped who I am the most, and that is this? What is something that shaped you, and what has it created in you because of that? Does that
So,
make sense?
yeah. So I write that in my book. I call it the inflection points in life. So that guy, what he said to me was an inflection point. But before that, in my sixth or seventh grade, my dad had a two-wheeler scooter. And I would always ask him, can I ride? Can I ride? He said, no, you're too young. You're underage. You can't ride it. But one Sunday morning, he said, go ahead. So we had this house, which we had a playground in the middle, and it was a ring road, and there were homes all around it. So he let me drive the scooter, and I started well. Three-fourths of the way, there was a curve and a slope. I went too fast. I fell down. Big bang noise. The whole neighborhood came out. They were about to help me. My dad was standing there with his hands folded, and in a very firm voice, he said, Ravi, you're going to get up and take another round now. He did not give me any chance to explain, say, feel bad, nothing. I was in no mood to go, but I got up and took another round, and I made it. And at that moment, I think my dad transferred that sense of confidence from him to me in a way that I didn't know at that point as a young kid. But when I reflect back on it, I think that was one of the most pivotal moments in my life, that the word fear kind of got out of my vocabulary. Not that I'm not fearful, but in a odd way, the word fear came out of my life. And since then, if I connect the dots, literally every decision I've made, somehow or another, it goes back to that moment in my life. I saw my dad standing in front of 2,000 people. They could have killed him in 2 seconds. They were burning entire place in New Delhi. They threw stone at my dad. And I saw him stand right there in front of the entire neighborhood. Saw him stand right there. So, and what I heard from my grandparents, my grandpa would sit me down in his lap. He would tell me all the stories from the British time. So I think those things, that moment of scooter was one of the biggest moment in my life.
Inflection point.
The inflection point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That and that other individual saying
yeah,
you
I've
won't be
had
able to make
many
it.
events like that. I've had many events like that. But foundationally, I think those were the two events that transpired. And also talking to the visa officer. I mean, I'm 22 years of age. I've never interviewed anywhere. This is the first time in a consulate, embassy of a different country. People tell you million things. You should say this, and it's very intimidating. In those days, there was no electronic appointment. So you go there at 3 a.m. in the morning. You start standing up in the line. 8 o'clock, the embassy open. Then it's very strictly, they make you sit this. It's very intimidating environment. And as a 22-year-old, you've never interviewed, you show up in front of the guy, you don't know what he's going to ask. And I just decided at the moment, right on the spur of the moment, I'm just going to be who I am. Let the thing fall wherever it falls. And then what happens? I get this visa. We have no money to travel. I have no money to buy the ticket. No money to take, no money to buy. I stayed with my best friend from 11th, 12th grade in New Delhi in his house. I had not seen him in 4 years. We spoke all night, catching up. His brother heard our conversation. Next morning, we are having breakfast. His brother comes and gives me a blank check. Says, Ravi, you have done everything in your power. If you get a visa today, you are going to go. And I still choke up because nobody had ever done that. They were not rich people. They were ordinary middle-income family in India. And he did that. And I said, but how will I return you? He said, did I ask you to return this money? So, you see, part of the thing people forget in life is life does not demand, it will never be about your money, wealth. It is really about how you build your trust. I remember in Charlotte, North Carolina, I needed $2,000 to buy a car. I had nothing to give. I had no collateral. I had zero. I arrived in Charlotte, North Carolina with $5 in my pocket from Idaho. I had $5. I needed to buy a car to get a to go to the job. I would go to this bank officer. Brenda Peters was his name, United Carolina Bank. Brenda and I talked for an hour. I'm trying to convince her, look, Brenda, I am the guy. My word is my collateral. You gotta give me $2,000. She's going back and forth. Then she tells me the statistics that all the immigrants are 99% they pay the bill. I'm one of them. The moment she said, why are you arguing with me? I'm one of them. In an hour, she approved the loan. So this is what I say. How do you win when you have nothing? That is the key. How do you win when you have nothing? And every moment in my life, it's been like this. I didn't have anything. I didn't have money to fly. I didn't have money to go to college. I didn't have money to go, I moved from Wisconsin to Idaho. I drove. I slept in my car. I ate in my car. I did everything in my car. Same thing I did Idaho to North Carolina. My classmates and my professor knew I had no money when I graduated. They gave me $165 cash the day I was leaving. I lost $60 in South Dakota because I got a traffic ticket. So I have this barely 90 some dollars left or 100 something like that. And now I'm thinking, okay, how do I make it to North Carolina so I don't run out of gas? Food was optional. Food wasn't the thing that I was thinking about. So I did not eat most of the time. I would just drink water. And that's how I drove all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I have no place to stay. So I will go to international student's office. Marian Bain was the name of the advisor. She was very kind. She had talked to a bunch of graduate students from India. Said, hey, this guy is coming. Could you put him up for a few days? Because I had an assistantship that was coming a month later. So those guys were very kind. They put me up in their house. But then I was very shy. I had $5. They were making hot meal. They were offering me a place, but I couldn't contribute for anything. So my game plan was wake up at 5 a.m., go to the campus. I would go to the gym. I still worked out. I go to the gym, work out, take a shower, get ready there, and then stay all day on campus. And I would look for food. If there was an event and nobody saw me, I would scramble for food. I'll
Sneak
go.
the food out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would go to the library and find this room, private room where I would sleep or nap, and then go back home at 11 at night. That's how I did. But a month, money wouldn't have lasted. So there was this lady called Dr. Maskey and Mrs. Maskey and Dr. Maskey. Both husband and wife were doctors in Wisconsin. They were very kind to me. They helped me many times. I took loan from them. So I had to call her eventually. I said, look, Dr. Maskey, I don't have any money. Would you loan me some more? So she gave me, I think, $9,000 at the time. And I said, I'll return you money. I don't know when, but I will return you somehow. So over the year, I returned every single penny. But that's how my journey started in...
That's crazy. So a couple follow-up questions. One is there one answer to the question of how to win when you have nothing?
dig deep. We
Dig
all
deep.
dig deep. You got some...
And then and before we transition to a little bit different direction here, based on everything you've shared, what is the takeaway for a listener right now that is facing any kind of adversity?
Look, without adversity, you will be bored to death. Honestly, I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be cute. Imagine you did everything happen in your life every day exactly the way you wanted. Your wife will say, you know what, get out of this house. Or your boss will say, you're so boring, I don't want you. So adversity, I think, is a clever way that nature works to keep us on our toes so we don't become stale. That's how I look at it. Without adversity, I don't think so we will grow. I don't think so we will be curious. I don't think so we'll invent things. That is the part of adversity. It really, I tell you, when you run marathon, I don't care how many marathons you run, you come to the 18, 19 mile and you hit the wall and then you say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I will not do this again. I mean, it is just too painful. But then comes your training, your mental conditioning, and all that stuff, and you see all these other people around you, and you push some. It's not just you running in a marathon. You are also encouraging somebody next to you who's struggling to say, "Let's go, man! Let's go, man! It's it's the last 5 miles. Let's do it. Let's do it." And I think that is what adversity is. Allows you to stay on your toes so that you will continue to grow. And however long you have on this earth, you will be relevant, so to speak. Not to show off to other people, but for you.
Yeah. I wonder if that leads into the actual next question, which is you've said leadership starts with leading yourself first. What does that really mean when you
So,
talk about that?
so I've been thinking a lot about it. So a lot of people say, or people think, oh, I want to do something good in this world. I want to contribute in this world. I want to do X, Y, Z in this world. And 99% of the people don't end up doing a whole lot. They just think about it. It makes them feel good that I want to do something. This is a very simple example that I'm going to give you. So if you really want to do that, first, like the plane, put the oxygen on you first, take care of you so that you can help someone else. So now take care of your health, take care of your mental faculties, physical faculties, spiritual faculties. So you could be that person, the very best you can be of you, whatever that best is. Now, if I am best, I am friendly, I'm kind, I'm considerate, take initiative, I'm driven, I'm courageous. I can guarantee you, I will have more opportunities in my life to do things for me and others than somebody who sits at home and continues to contemplate, I want to change the world, I want to do this, I want to do that. Nothing is going to happen. So this is how I see. You got to lead yourself first. Whatever happens in your life, can you manage your finance? Can you take care of your family? Can you wake up in the morning? Can you make your bed every day? Do you go out for a walk? Do you drink water? Do you sleep enough? Do you take time out for other people? These are like people think these are, no, you don't need to. Parenting, as you know, is the biggest test of leadership. And I've failed as many times or maybe more than most parents have. But I don't punish myself for that. What I say to myself is, look, kids don't come with a user manual, right? All parents, especially your first kid and second, is a big difference. You learn. That's how it is. My intent is right. My intent is right. My execution may not be perfect, and I'm not perfect, but I am going to be perfect in my imperfections. And that is how you lead yourself. Be comfortable in your skin. Become totally comfortable with your People have told me, Ravi, you have an accent. You must have an arranged marriage. You are very tenacious. Sometimes you are very stubborn. Yeah, those are my superpowers. What can I say?
Love it. Tell us a little bit about. I want to shift gears just a little bit. Tell us about what you're currently doing, what your company does.
So I'm doing a couple of different things. So companyinsights.ai is in the generative AI space. So we have developed an agentic persona which works on the agentic RAG solution, and we are only targeting corporate customers, whereby we are really solving the first mile problem in this AI world. A lot of people are trying to do fancy stuff in AI. We are doing the boring stuff in AI, which is how do you take care of your documents? How do you really parse them so they are ready for AI? If you cannot do the very first step well, none of your foundation is not good. Your whole building is going to fall apart. It may work for a little bit here and there. So what we have done is we have done a lot of all homegrown technology. We are not dependent on any big box companies. We have developed a really robust world-class solution, which is 99% accurate. When we give you answers, we have developed personas. So it's not a plain vanilla chat. Every company we work for, we understand the different roles. We have persona-driven chat. So if I'm the CEO and I'm the product manager and I'm the developer, I can ask the same question, but I'll get an answer in contextually what you need to know based on your data, not the internet garbage. So what are the two main problems? Three things we are solving. 99% of the documents in the world are unstructured and they're not AI ready. You can't access them when you need them. We solve that problem. Second is companies invest millions and billions of dollars and years to build their brand and voice. Generic AI just erases it. We are trying to keep you on brand. And the third is AI gives you, it's quick, it gives you answer and it looks really great. But a lot of the time it's wrong context, wrong data. Leaders who are running the companies can't trust it. We are trying to make sure it's AI ready, it's on brand, and you can trust that data because it's coming from your corpus and not from outside world. Now, there are places where we do want to, if I'm running a company, health insurance company, and I say, can you tell me how are my plans compared to the rest of the other companies? We have technology where we go out of the corpus and will compare and show you a list of what it is. So those are one area. We are also working. So we're working in 5 different industries right now: health insurance, energy, life sciences, political campaigns, and field services. And we are
That's
running
really cool.
pilots. Yeah, those are the things we are doing. Besides that, I'm working on my keynote speaking, things like that,
Your
and
book,
thinking about which other book will I write next.
the next book. So, I want to ask you. So you've led global teams, over 1,000 people, 80 countries. Now you've got your own business.
Mhm.
What did that previous experience teach you the most about people or leadership that traditional leadership training never did?
Patience. Patience is such an underrated skill as a leader. When you're working with 1,000 people, 10 people, 50 people, they're diverse, they have different habits and ways they work, react, respond. If you don't have patience, you're going to miss out on the real diamond that you're after. So I think patience is one thing. The other part is understanding things go wrong all the time. Nothing is perfect, especially in the software world. People say, okay, yeah, and especially in the AI world is very different than your traditional SDLC, where you had the spec, you develop it, you test it, it's 6 months from now, 9 months from now. In AI world, like somebody asked me in last week's pitch, what is your 5-year plan? I said, you must not be living on the same planet as I am living. In AI world, there is no 5-year plan. There's a 2-week plan. There's a 1-day plan, but there is no 5-year plan. I cannot tell you in 5 years where my company will be. So I think patience, understanding that disruption is your best friend. You have to somehow or another learn to do it. But I've also learned to not be defined by my work, so to speak. Like
Hmm.
I don't think about work 24/7. I have a very simple, as soon as I'm done with something, I'm done with something. I'm not thinking about it 24/7. That has never been my persona. I've fought hard with my bosses for my team members to say, get out of work. I don't care if it is not tomorrow is coming. what you did today is great. Get out, do something else, do something new. So those are some things. And having worked with so many people from around the world, the connection, I can connect with anybody in the world. I can be in any country in the world and I'm at home. I don't have a problem saying, oh, in Atlanta, I have this. I can be in the simplest of place and I have no issues with that. And those are things that comes with time. You're meeting people and people have taught me so many things. Sometimes you think you have a certain idea and context and perspective, and then somebody else comes out and just breaks it, and you have to accept it because you don't know everything about the world. You have to be open to it.
Do you think some of this leadership philosophy, especially the last part you're talking about leaving work at work, et cetera, do you think that comes because you're working internationally and sometimes outside the US, there are different philosophies about work? Or is that just Ravi and it's like, no, that's just me. This is just my belief.
I think it's a little bit of all, but I'll give you a couple of things. My dad was a chief marketing officer for a fertilizer company in India. He traveled 28 days in a month throughout the country, all over India, throughout my life. But I saw him, he would wake up at 4. In those days, there was no cell phone, right? Your rotary phone. He knew everybody's number in his head. The entire country. He would be dialing number from 4 in the morning to 11 at night. He knew everybody all over the country. But one thing was very clear about him. He always had fun. We always had guests in our house almost every night. Every evening we had guests. Weekend something was there. Dad would travel extensively. People knew him. He knew people. And he always had fun when he did his work. He worked very hard. And he would always say, Ravi, money will come, but this moment will not come. So when we were kids, he took us out every business trip. If we didn't have school, he would take all the entire family to different places. Those things, I think, set the foundation for me. And he would talk about work with us at dinner table. When we were little kids, how people can be, very cunning, how people are not honest, how somebody is cheating somebody. Dad talked about these things on a dinner table. And as I came here, and as an athlete, I always had this, even in college, I never slept more than 6 hours. But I also never, when I didn't have money in America, 9 years, many times I didn't have money to eat, so I would drink water, but I never left running. I went running to clear my head. That was my way. And to this date, it's the workout that gets me going. So I've had job interviews where I said this outright. I will not take this job if I am not having time to work out. I made it very clear. I will not do this job. I had a client in Peru one time. She was a very tough client. Everybody was scared of her. My first week there, we had a major issue. And she called me and I was training for Paris Marathon at the time. So I would run from 4 o'clock till 7 in the morning. So I'm running and the phone rings. I didn't pick the phone. I showed up at work. She goes, I called you in the morning. I said, yeah, what time did you call? She said, 4:35. I said, yeah, that's my running time. You don't call me at that time. And that's how I've always operated. So I don't care if it's the CEO or the last guy. The only thing is this. I told the lady, look, if we plan ahead, and you tell me, Ravi, next weekend we are having this and this, I'll be your best partner. But on a regular day, that is my time. That's my workout time. I'm not going to give up or anything. But what I find in America is we have developed a culture in every family, every neighborhood, every community. We value people who are workaholic. We kind of celebrate, oh, I work 90 hours a week, but my health is going. One thing, have you noticed? Most CEOs in the world, they are kind of thin and lean. And I'm not talking physically in that sense, but I'm talking about health. In America, as soon as you go up in your ladder, your waistline goes up, goes bigger and bigger. Most of them, not all. Whereas in the rest of the world, it doesn't do that. And I'm a big proponent of the fact that as leaders, we have to lead with example, not just fake. If I'm concerned about the health, I want to be concerned about my rest of the team. I need to lead with that example. I was in Argentina. I hired about 70 people. I had about 60, 65. I hired about 70. We were in a deep trouble in that project. Most of the people were 22 to 26 years of age. I was twice their age, like 45, 50. And I could see that most people couldn't work very hard. Like 8 hours was too much. And I gave a town hall, 2-hour town hall. I never talked about work. I only focused on, you're the CEO of your life.
Yeah.
Forget which company you work for. Would you hire you? Would you hire you? Would you keep you as a company? Could you stay with you alone for 10 hours? If the answer is no to any of these questions, or all of these questions, something has to change, which will always start with the three things: our physiology. This is the only physiology we have. So we got to make sure, to the best of our abilities, our body is supporting what we want to do in our life, mind, body, and soul. Second is our language, the language we speak, right? A powerful language makes us resourceful. A language, if I say, wow, it is very cold in Atlanta today, I could say, I'm not going to go out, but I have enough clothing that I can wear the right clothing and I can walk out 1 hour today in Atlanta and I'll be fine. So it's a matter. And then the focus. Right now, I'm building this company. We are hopeful that we will have cash flow this year, but we haven't made the cash flow yet. But I'm not focused on not possible. I'm focused on, we are really solving people's problems that most people are ignoring. So I believe we are adding value, which means that value will someday translate into a better life for the employees and clients. And we will make the numbers we need to make because we have a bigger goal. I want to take this money for conservation. I want to take this money to help with nutrition and fitness and things like that around the world. I have a vision for it. Doesn't matter my age, right? I think those are the things that are absolutely critical in life, in leadership. And then again, it starts with you. You have to do it for you first. It's not selfish. It is the necessity.
Has health and fitness been, because you've read like 200 books on health and fitness, and as an athlete, did this come from that? Were you aware of it when you were an athlete, a younger athlete? Or is it as you got older and you said, look, personal health is a leadership issue? And was there something that triggered it where you go, I've got to make health and fitness part of my life? Not just as an athlete, or is it, like I said, it's
Yeah.
just you've
So this
done
is
this since
also
you were a kid?
very, very, it's very innate to me. When I was a little boy in India, I remember very clearly my mom would be chopping vegetables and things like that to cook. And by the time she's chopping carrots and cauliflower and tomato, I was eating the raw stuff just like that. And I didn't know any science, but even as a little kid, if mom was making fried food, I would say, Mom, give me before you fry the food. I had no idea what science was, right? Not that I never ate junk food, but I was always, even as a kid in India, I always was different than many kids in that I gravitated towards, I think my body told me, my family, my mother's side doesn't eat any animal product. My father's side used to eat chicken and lamb and all this stuff and fish because we come from a fishing village. Everybody in my family did everything possible under the sun to make me eat animal products. And every time it touched my tongue, I'll throw up. I never touched it. So that's how I'm built. And then I was an athlete. But only when I started running marathons I didn't ever study nutrition, never care. I always had good health. My annual report never said I had anything missing. But when I started training for the marathon, I was out for a year and 6 days without a job in 2007, 2008. And I went for my annual checkup. And my cholesterol had gone up to somehow 234. And the physician didn't ask me any question. He said, Lipitor, vitamin D, and he was wanting me to leave. I said, doctor, is that all you have to say? He goes, yeah. I said, so you're not doing your job. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you didn't ask me any qualifying question. What I eat? Do I sleep enough? Do I drink water? Am I happy? Do I like what I do? Things like that. He looked at me like, which planet did you show up from? And same night, I was leaving for Lima, Peru, my first job after the unemployment. And it bothered me so much that when I landed in Lima midnight, I sat in my hotel room. I took a white sheet of paper. I divided it into two sides and said, okay, what did I change in my life in the last 6 months? Because I'm running 60 miles a week. I'm exercising. How can my cholesterol go up to that level? It really bothered me. Nothing was coming up. And then one thing showed up. I read few books on running, and they all talked about protein. I never worried about protein in my life. So I was eating a lot of Cliff bars, protein bars. I was eating 2-3 a day. I didn't know the science that day. I had a big box I had bought from Costco for my trip. Next morning, I gave it to someone in the hotel saying, this is your gift. I didn't know what it was. From that day on, I always stay in a hotel with a kitchen. I started to cook without oil. I took oil out of my cooking. Although I always used to use little, I took oil out. I started cooking without oil. I picked up Pilates. I was still training the same way. In 6 months, I was down to 164. Came back to Atlanta, showed my report to the doctor. The doctor said, good for you. I said, that's all you want to know? And he didn't ask me anything. I said, doctor, you're fired. I'm never going to come back to you. That led me to reading all the books and getting to know some of the pioneers in the field of lifestyle medicine, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Michael Greger, Dean Ornish. I started going to conferences. And that became a passion for me because I could see the correlation between diet and disease, between diet and overall health. And since then, I've talked in many places. I've helped. There are guys who have worked with me. They were like 300 pounds. And 1 year, they are down to my size. We ran the Atlanta Marathon together. No medication. So that's my conviction now, that you are one book away from being an expert in something. You're one book away from solving a problem you're facing. And that's why I want to encourage every reader. There's a lot of misconception in the medical world. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice, but take the time to read a couple of books to educate yourself before you go to the doctor.
Yeah. So 2 last questions here, and that last comment you made may have answered part of this, but I want to, for the listeners right now, first of all, you've had a lot of perseverance, a lot of, I think your competitive nature has driven you a lot, right? Just, I'm a rebel, I'm going to do it.
I think rebel is
But
a big word.
rebel's a good word. So if someone feels, so I want you to think about this for leaders, people who are listening, that feel stuck over their, or they're overthinking something right now, what is one decision that they could make today to create momentum?
So I just gave a TEDx talk, right? And that TEDx talk, the North Point is that when young professionals learn to make decisions without guarantees, they can move from self-doubt and overthinking and begin building a life of absolute confidence. It is the outcome that people get stuck with. Oh, what if I do this, but I want this, I want this, I want this. If I had worried about the outcome in my life, I don't think so where I will be where I am today. I never really worried about the outcome. I just did something that came to my head and I just took action. The guy challenged me. I went to every embassy and consulate I could find. I didn't know where I was going to go. Then I wrote to, 500-600 schools around the world. Every penny I had went into sending handwritten letter to schools all over the world. I didn't know if I was going to go to any school. And then I didn't know how I was going to travel. The check came from my friend's brother. I didn't know what was going to happen in Wisconsin, but my professor took me to a guy's house. If I had sat around thinking everything has to come in place, this is one. decision making, if you become decisive, will do more for you than any goal you set in your life. That is what I've learned in my life. If you continuously make decisions, good, bad, ugly, don't stop. It will never go the way you want. The world and the life never goes the way you. I wrote on my mirror in bathroom, I will give a TEDx talk by August 15, 2024. That was a year before that I wrote that. When did I give my talk? November 16, 2025. 224 rejections. 225th stage accepted my talk. That's what it is. I could have sat.
Perseverance.
Yes. I mean, it's like applying to
And making a decision. Yeah.
making a decision.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right. The last question is always my last question on my podcast. And that is, what question do you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you? But secretly, you kind of wish people would, so you could talk to them about it.
Yeah, this is something, it's a tough one. There's a lot of things you think about when people talk to you, whether like, how did you marry somebody from this different culture, nothing in common? But what I really wish people would learn, not from me only, it's other people. What kept you going when everything fell apart? What is it that keeps you going? There are people who said, Ravi, why did you have to do all this stuff? You could have stayed in India. You wouldn't have to go through all this stuff. And I think when you ask, people don't ask that question. I don't know why, but I think that's a pivotal question to understand someone. Because that question will tell you the truth about the person's journey. If the person is upfront, right? And so for me, it's not the keynote, the books, the poetry, the marathons, all this stuff. It's the invisible battles you fight with yourself every single day, every single moment. Hey, what do I do with my kid? What do I do with this? What do I do with my boss? What do I do with my neighbor? What do I do with finance? And so all the years, I've lost my job many times, came back. But many times I thought I'll give up because I was so tired. It took me 9 years, in the first 9 years, before I got my first professional job in US. 9 years. So many, 3 graduate school. There was absolutely no light at the end of the tunnel many days. I would come home and there were days I did not know what to do. And there were days I just sat in places alone because people didn't invite me for a get-together, or people walked me out of a interview saying, you don't have blue eyes and brown hair. People walked me out of interviews where they said, well, you don't know people with money. People don't know all this stuff, and all of this is about digging so deep within you, so deep, that there's always this whisper in all of us which says, there is something there. You don't know what it is, but there's something there. And that is the fire that you got to discover within you.
So
And
what was it that kept you going with all this adversity? What is the answer to that question for you in simplest terms?
to me, it's just a curiosity, very simple. I think life is beautiful. And we all owe it to ourselves to, why did I run marathon? It's because I ran, one day I challenged about 40 people who were out of job. We used to meet every Monday in Atlanta. I said, by next Monday when we meet, we all have to do something we've never done before, whether read a new book, call a friend you haven't called, cook a meal you haven't done. I have never run more than 10 miles. I'm going to run 20 miles. From that meeting, I drove a 20-mile loop in my car. For the next 5 days, I visualized myself running the 20 mile. On Friday, I ran 20 miles. When I ran 20 miles, I became a marathon runner during that run because my thought went, oh, if I do 20 miles, I can do 26.2. I became a marathon runner. That is the beauty. That's how my mind works. So my point is it's not complicated. Life is beautiful. You pick, don't worry so much. I got to have $1 million in my bank account. I got to have this. Do one thing and enjoy that moment of that experience. And then that will open up door to something else that you never expected in life. So the more decisions you make, life starts to open up in ways. This is my last line in my talk as well, is when you make decisions, life begins to open up in ways that you have never imagined. And that's exactly what it is.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, Ravi, what is the best way for people to learn more about your company or you?
Great. Thank you again for having this stage and time with you. I enjoyed the conversation. You can go to journeywithravi.com. That's my personal website. It's an author's website. So you can look at my post. You can look at, get the book. You can book me for speaking. Those are the things you do at journeywithravi.com. Companyinsights.ai is our corporate website. And I will just warn you right now, it is under construction. We are working on a few things right now. We've been so heads down on developing the product that has been a secondary thing on our mind. So that's the third thing is I would encourage everybody to connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where that's the only social media I'm really active on. So if you want to, you can connect with me. Just please send a one-liner that you heard me on the David show, so I have some context to what it is. I like that because I like to know who am I connecting with.
Yeah,
So
I
those are
love
the
that.
ways that people can connect with me. And if you read my book, I encourage you to read my book, not because it's my book, because it's a human story. It's a human journey. So read it, and if you would,
Fascinating.
leave a review for that as well. So thank you.
I love that. I love that. And I'll make sure I put all those links in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Ravi, thank you so much for being with me. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you.
And folks, thank you for being part of Inside the Leader's Mind. If you've enjoyed that, please subscribe, share. I appreciate you so much. I'm David Susan, and until next time, goodbye.
Thank you.